okay if you don't invite me. I'll just find another one and crush you.
Hello everybody, my name is Ilya.
And my name is Tyler. Together we make up Kovray, a couple that loves to play board games.
And today we're here to tell you about Fame and Fable.
Fame and Fable. Fame and Fable is designed and illustrated by Owen Davey and is published by Owen Davey Games, who helped sponsor this video.
This game is coming to crowdfunding, so you can learn much more about it by clicking that link down in the description. But with all that said, let's give you an overview of how this game works. In Fame and Fable, you'll be adventuring on a fantasy quest, taking on monsters and legends, and building a party that will earn you fame, and create your fable that will be told throughout all of time. In this game, your goal is to obtain the most fame. You'll do this by taking on monsters and legends. On your turn, you'll move through 3 phases. Let's go over them. Dawn. You'll first refresh any empty space on the board. If you see this eyeball symbol on the monsters, you'll need to take the monster to your play area. You'll need to attempt to defeat them this turn. You'll then obtain your actions for the round, which is usually 3, and then have the option to spend 1 moon token to ready all of your allies. Now you'll move into the day phase. Here you can spend actions to acquire new allies and items, use abilities of deployed allies, and or spend 1 action to draw a monster or legend, which you'll battle before acquiring more to take on. When recruiting allies or obtaining items, you'll pay actions equal to the pips on the card. They will go into your hand. You can often deploy or play them from your hand without needing to use additional actions. Your hand limit in this game is 6 cards, and your play area limit is 6 allies, so plan your party carefully. Most allies will have traits. They're abilities that can be used at any time on your turn if you have the actions to pay for them. Some of them will also not require any actions to be spent. When using abilities or battling with your allies, they become exhausted. You'll turn the card sideways. It will stay deployed, but not be available for your use until it is ready again. There are items and actions that will ready your allies throughout the game, such as discarding a moon token at the start of your turn as we discussed earlier. Now let's chat about combat. Defeating legends and monsters will be the primary way you'll acquire fame in this game. You can spend 1 action to choose a monster from the row, or 1 from the top of the deck, or a legend just from the top of the deck. The legend's fame value is 11 to 20, while the monster's fame value is 1 to 10. Once a monster or legend is in your play area, you cannot take another, unless of course you come across this instant action, which forces you to draw another monster into combat. This does not cost an additional action. You can still take other actions such as recruiting allies or using traits before you enter combat. When you're ready for combat, you can begin. You can only attack monsters and legends with deployed and ready allies or your items in your hand. Each monster is fought separately. The attacks do not carry over. You may attack monsters and legends using as many different classes as needed, but you'll want to pay attention, as if a monster is immune to a class, your ally or hero will not do any damage, while if they're vulnerable, the hero or ally will do double the damage. If you meet or exceed the fame value, you'll defeat the monster or legend. You'll discard the monster to the corresponding draw pile, or the legend to your own discard pile. You'll then score the fame on the fame track. Here, you'll also want to look at the contracts present on the board, as if you fulfill any as a result of combat, you'll score additional points and discard the corresponding contract. If you're not able to defeat a monster or legend, you'll need to discard 1 ally, either deployed or from your hand, exhausted or ready. You'll then discard the monster or reshuffle the legend back into the deck. Which really brings us to Dusk. Here's where you'll score all the fame you've obtained this turn for monsters and contracts. If you passed any moon token, you'll take the nearest one you've passed. And finally, if you land on a legend space, you'll draw a legend. You'll need to face the legend on your next turn. You'll keep playing, building your party, facing monsters and legends, fulfilling contracts and using items, until 1 player passes the champion token. When this happens, the endgame is triggered. All other players will receive 1 more turn to collect as much fame as possible. You'll then compare how many legends you've defeated. The player with the most defeated legends will gain a bonus of 10 fame. You'll compare your fame, and the player with the most wins.
And now that you know how Fame and Fable works, let's talk about some key features in this game.
The key features.
Why do you want to check it out? Why might you want to check it out?
The first one being, look at the art.
Yes.
I think this game has such a unique aesthetic and feel that I have just not seen in many other board games.
No, the color contrast is super interesting, super intriguing, really eye-catching, and that honestly is enough to draw you in to want to try this game for sure.
There are so many unique illustrations in this game. Each card has a different illustration. And they bring in such a world of discovery and wonder and sometimes familiarity that you're accustomed to, but with a unique twist.
Yes.
And I do think this is a game that if you see it at a table, you're going to be curious of what is going on in that table.
Yes. Exactly. So what is going on at this table?
Well, the mechanics of this game. Well, generally this is a game where you are trying to get the most fame by adapting to the circumstances.
Yes.
Of course, you'll start out with your hero and some cards, but throughout the game, you have so many options of how you want to build your team and your party in order to take on all these monsters and legends. And I think that's where the decision making in this game really shines, because at your turn, you'll look at the board state and see, oh, look, that ally just got flipped over.
Yep.
That ally is so good for my team, but they cost 3 actions. Is that all I do this turn just to get this ally and get him into play? Maybe, because that could be a really long-term benefit for this game.
Absolutely it is. Yeah, I think that's the uniqueness of this game, is that the decision space based on what's on the board. Lots of the times you'll be deciding how can you maximize the contracts that you're able to get, because maybe you can get one, but maybe you can also get 2 of them if you play
3.
Right. Yeah, 3 if you're lucky.
Oh.
Yeah. And then the other thing too is if those allies don't work, what else on the board works that you're able to actually manage to do? Because there are things along the way that will help you build your fame up, but will also sabotage the other players. Ooh. And you have to decide if it's worth using those action points to do exactly that.
And I think there's that element of the player competition, but there's that element of the game against yourself too.
Yes.
Because sometimes a card will be flipped, and all of a sudden you have to draw that monster because of the eyeball symbol. Or there's an instant effect that does something negative to you, or to other players. Yeah. So the game also keeps you at the edge of the seat the entire time, trying to manage what and how you're going to approach it.
Yeah, there's definitely some chaos involved in this game, and that kind of is the excitingness of going on an adventure. You might encounter a monster that's completely immune to half the party that you're planning on taking, and that's never a good thing for you, but you've got to power through and see how you can beat the odds and make it work for you.
And hey, you think you have a really good team? All of a sudden 2 of them are gone because you drew a card.
Exactly.
And I think this game has a lot of features like that, where there's also catch-up mechanisms too, where like if someone is really far ahead, you might be able to get more action points because of the empty moon spaces that are ahead. So it does leave you adapting, leave you coming back for more, and leaving you to really want to build the best team that you can build.
Yes, exactly.
Now, speaking of your team, it's hilarious to see some of the characters there and how thematic they can be too. There's the coward, for example, that has an ability that basically just lets you run away.
Bye!
There's also the villager, who does really nothing. They're just there.
He's just there.
He's
a body.
He's a body.
A sacrificial body, maybe.
That's true. If you have to exhaust someone to take him away, the villager could be a good choice.
There you go.
But there's fun thematic text too. There's some characters and monsters that you may be familiar with as well. There's some icky, spooky monsters. And then there's some, maybe there's a mysterious egg that just shows up. What do you do with it?
Yeah.
We don't know.
Hopefully it turns into something cool. You'll never know.
You'll never know.
Maybe it'll tear up your party.
Spooky.
On top of monsters, though, there's also the legends, which are an exciting piece of the game because you actually build up to it. So building your tableau, building out your party to be able to take on monsters is one thing, but then pushing yourself even further, making use of your party as like a complete full party, the full 6 of you, then being able to take out a legend sometimes isn't easy, but it is manageable when you have that many options. So it is exciting, and it's a good way to get yourself a ton of points.
Especially throwing the items in the mix as well.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you're able to attack with attack you might not have, or double an attack of a particular kind. The items can be a really powerful way for you to really get ahead, and the abilities of your allies too. All in all, there's quite a lot of combinations of mechanics in this game that really leave you to adapt, leave you to pay attention to what everybody else is doing, and make your choices carefully. Because sometimes you don't want to get too far ahead because you'll refresh all your opponent's allies by passing a moon token. So some of those decision making is what makes this game really interesting, because it does leave you to think about quite a lot of factors that could potentially influence your own and your opponent's gameplay.
Yeah, and playing this with more and more players, you begin to understand that your story is just as impacted by their story and vice versa. So being able to bounce off of each other in both positive and negative ways can be quite an interesting fable.
After all, you're all trying to get the fame
Exactly.
and building your own fable, so that's all you gotta do.
And the last thing I will say is you can add in the moon cards, which is something like, it's like in advanced mode that you can play once you've played through the game a couple times. They're like event cards essentially. Yeah. Some will offer like buffs, some will offer like not so good things.
Not buffs? Yeah, they'll keep you on your toes. Every time you get a moon token, a new one will come into play and take over the other one. And what will they do? You'll find out. The moon will speak to you.
Exactly.
And that's the mystery of it all. Last but not least, there is a solo mode in this game that looks quite different from the actual game. So let's tell you about it. Here, you'll face the trial. Your goal is to reach the end of the champion track before the board is overwhelmed with monsters and legends. For this mode, you'll use the other side of the board and begin your adventure as the champion you are. At the start of your turn, you may, like before, spend a moon token to ready your allies. Then, a fate card will be drawn, which will populate the board with monsters, allies, and items, usually face down. You'll then choose a location for your turn and move your player marker token to that location. Now, you'll reveal all the face down cards and check if any instant effects are triggered. Monster and legend instant effects do not trigger until you choose to combat with those cards. The number of actions you have correlates to the number of unoccupied action spaces at your location. Monsters and legends block these spaces, so if you defeat them, you'll unlock more actions for you to take. On top of that, you'll advance on the champion track, 1 space for monsters and 2 for legends. This will help you gather moon tokens, but will also make your game more difficult, as monsters and legends will get uneasy the further you get. What are actions used for in this mode? Well, each location has its own market, so you can spend any available actions to get items or allies to strengthen your party. This will often happen after you defeat monsters or legends, as you'll have more actions. You can also visit the Citadel, which will spawn face-up allies or items. You can recruit these for free, and ready one of your allies if this is a location you choose for the turn. You can also take a rally action, which is when you're at any location but the Citadel to recruit 1 card from the Citadel for just 1 action instead of the market cost. Now, if any action becomes full, it becomes overrun. The allies and items here are discarded and you can no longer go here. If enemies spawn at this location, they'll proceed to the next location in order. Now you'll keep playing visiting various locations until all are full and an enemy cannot be spawned. In this case, you'll lose the game. Or if you reach the end of the champion track, in which case you'll win. And that's the solo mode.
With all that out of the way, let's summarize. Who's this game for?
Well, I think if you like a particular art style that's a little unique in the board game space, and you want to go on an adventure with your friends, this game may be for you. What party will you build? What items will you acquire? What monsters will you face? What legends will you conquer? There's a story to tell. A fable, one might say.
Yes. If you are into fantasy games, then I think this is a really, really interesting take on one. You're gonna, obviously, like Ilya said, build out your party and be triumphant, hopefully. But it's also a great game to play around the table with everybody. I think everybody is pushing their luck at a certain point. Things are going to be amazing. They're going to have great moments. People are going to have bad moments. You're going to laugh with them. You're going to laugh at them. Like, there's things that are going to happen in this game that will bring everybody together at the table. And I think that that's something you, if you're looking for in a board game, Fame and Fable will do exactly that for you.
Exactly. With that said, this game is coming to Kickstarter, so you can check out the description, click that link, and learn much, much, much more about it.
Exactly.
And if you have any questions, feel free to ask us. We're happy to chat Fame and Fable with you.
What did you think about the game so far? At least from everything that we've told you, is it for you? Let us know down in the comments below. And of course, if you like this video, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, because we love talking about board games.
And for our question of the day, if you were to put together your party for an adventure, how would you do it? Would you try to pick like one strong friend, one smart friend? Would you just pick the closest people to you to hope you do the best? Would you have any reasoning for how you construct your party?
What's the strategy? I guess it would depend on the adventure that you're going on.
It could.
It would.
You could do some tactical planning. If you're going up on a mountain, so you're going to get some mountaineer friends.
You know what though? Board gamers, we know how to get it done.
We do know how to get it done.
I think you'd make a solid fantasy party with some solid board gamers.
I'd like to think so. Will you invite me to your party? Maybe.
It's okay if you don't invite me. I'll just find another one and crush you.
Well, thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you at the next one.
Bye!